Hello guys, my name is Alex Dunamis, and today I've decided to tell you guys a story that I've been wanting to tell for a long time. And this is my story on how I met Reverend Julian Kyula and some of the lessons that I have learned over the 5 years that I have known him and I have followed him. So the reason why I want to tell this story is because I believe there are some valuable lessons that some people, people out there can make use of. And so let me just take you back to the beginning. I joined Daystar University back in 2013, and from really the onset of it, I was having issues with school fees. And so I needed to figure out a way on which I'm going to assist my parents in paying school fees. That is maybe something that I could do on the side to make me money, to sustain myself there, and also assist my parents in paying the school fees. But one thing happened, and that is I got a scholarship from Daystar University. It was a program called Work Study. So Work Study is basically you studying while you work for the school. So I worked in the registrar's office, and they used to pay 40% of my school fees from that program. And so that is something that I'm truly, truly grateful to Daystar University. It's something that really boosted me. But still I needed to do more, because even though there was that 40% that was being paid, still there was a struggle that we were having. And so one of the things that at that time I believed that I was gifted in was public speaking. And at that time I was also very interested in motivational speaking. So I decided to package some motivational speech that I could tell within 5 to 7 minutes, because I realized that it was very hard for me to go in functions and ask people to give me 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes to speak. And so I needed something that I could do without really taking a lot of time. So I came up with the Shout of a King. So the Shout of a King was basically a compressed motivational speech that was packed with very heavy quotes and also poems.
I'm gonna motivate you. I'm gonna say some things to you that will have an impact, and you will in fact not be the same when you wake up from your seats. I'd like to start by telling you a story of a West Texas Ranger who had a coming out party for his daughter. Now I'm talking about this really rich Texas. I mean, he had thousands in tracts of land, tens of thousands of head of cattle, a big house and an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now the salespeople call this group prospecting. I mean, he wanted to have a look of all the fine young men in West Texas, and they came from 100 miles away. And they had a marvelous time, and not about midnight, he invited them to his Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now he had there stacked sea moccasins and alligators, or if you wish, crocodiles. And he said to them, the first of you young man to jump into this pool and swim the length of it, I'll give you 5,000 acres of my best land. He said, and if you don't want that, I'll give you $1 million in cash. He said, and if you don't want that, I'll give you the hand of my beautiful daughter in marriage. Now I guess it's pretty obvious, I do not have to tell you this, but she's our only heir. And whoever that will get her will eventually get all of this. No sooner had those words left his mouth than there was a loud splash that went into that pool, followed by an almost immediate emergence of a dripping young man on the other side. I mean, he had set a world record that would never even be approached. And so the West Texas was all excited, and he ran down there and he said, young man, that was absolutely fantastic. So tell me, do you want the 5,000 acres of my best land? He said, no, sir. Do you want the $1 million in cash? He said, no, sir. He said, then son, I've got to assume that you want the hand of my beautiful daughter in marriage. He said, no, sir. He said, then son, for crying out loud, what do you want? He said, I want to know the name of that dude that pushed me into the swimming pool. Now, that is just to tell you what motivation is all about. Motivation is just that extra push you get into doing what you would otherwise not do.
And a few things that I was studying at that time, I was learning at that time. So I would come and tell it within 5 minutes, and that one was very easy to get time to tell, because you would go into a functions and people are being given 5 minutes to present a song, and I come in and I say I need 5 minutes but not for a song. And so a lot of people would give me that opportunity, and it started in Daystar Daystar University at the amphitheater. So every function, I would just appear and let the MCs know that I would like to present. And the first time I did it, it captured people. It really captured people. And because one of my friends was telling me, who is going to listen to you for 5 minutes? I mean, you know how rowdy the crowd in Daystar University is. So who is really going to pay attention when you're actually speaking? But amazingly, it really took off. And I would speak and people would pay attention. And after that, I would receive some great applause. So that's how I began. And before long, I was speaking in various places. Almost every meeting that would happen, every serious meeting that would happen in Daystar University, I would be called upon to come and do the Shout of a King. And so at that time, I had now started doing the Shout of a King. And I was also getting paid for it when I would be called in churches, in schools to speak. Now there I would speak for a longer time, but now I started making some cash out of it. So now it happened that I was also looking for a mentor, somebody who could walk with me through this, because for me it was a very, very new field. I really didn't know, in as much as I was receiving some kind of success in Daystar University, I didn't know if the world would respond the same. And so I needed somebody who would guide me through that. And as I was looking for somebody to assist me in that, I did my research, and some of the top speakers that I found one of them was Reverend Julian Kyula. And so I decided I need to meet this man because I checked his profile, and he was a family man, a businessman, a pastor, a great, great speaker. And so I needed to meet him, but I didn't know how I would meet him. But an opportunity presented itself because one of my friends, his name is Jeff Ferezi, who is the founder of Africa Inuka back then. I think they've changed the name right now, but back then it was Africa Inuka. They had a function that was to take place at Mavuno Church. So he came to me and he said, Alex, I want you to come do the Shout of a King. We have a leadership summit, and these are the speakers. And so I would like you to come and do the Shout of a King. I think, come and motivate people before the speakers come on. So when I checked the brochure and I saw that Reverend Julian Kyula was among the people invited to come speak, I was so excited, and I told him I have to be there. And I remember by the time he was telling me this, it was on a Thursday, and the event was taking place on Saturday. So what I didn't really, because we were supposed to pay 500 shillings, I didn't have the money to pay for it. So I spoke to one of my friends, and he assisted me with the 500, which I paid, and then I showed up in the event. When I got to the event, the first thing that I did was I walked right to the MCs. At that time, it was Paul Chege and Miriam Nyokabi. Miriam right now is, I think she's in the UK. She's in the UK right now. She's in the UK for studies. And Paul, unfortunately, we lost Paul about a year or two ago. He passed on. But he's a man that I owe him a lot. I really owe him a lot. So what happened, I walked to Paul and I told him, Paul, I'll be doing the Shout of a King, but I want you to do me a favor. Don't call me unless Reverend Julian Kyula is here. And that is exactly what they did, because I believe they actually went against protocol. Because every other person who had a presentation performed, and then they invited over the senior pastor Mavuno to speak, to make opening remarks. And at that time when he was making opening remarks, that is when Reverend Julian Kyula and his team walked in. So when I saw that, immediately I gave Paul a look like it's time to do this. And what they did is that after the senior pastor Mavuno was done with the opening remarks, because he actually wanted to invite Reverend Julian next, but the MCs jumped in and they said there's something that we forgot. There's something that we forgot. And so they called me up. And I came, and honestly, I was really, really prepared. I was really prepared, and I was really there to impress. And I did the Shout of a King within 7 minutes. And by the time I was finishing, I used to have a clause that I would close with at the end that would go like, my name is Alex Dunamis, And I'm that king that you hear about, fresher than the fresh prince of Bel-Air. There's never been one before me, there will never be one after me, so that makes me the one and only. And this has been the shout of a king. By the time I was finishing that, the whole place just burst in applause. And it was really nice. And so went back and sat down. According to me now, guys were really motivated. I had really achieved my goal for the day. So guys were really, really motivated. And so Julian Kyula was next. It was as though I had just done a curtain raiser for him. So he was next. And he came on stage, and I will never forget it. He came on stage and he had somebody at the projector, so he was showing us what he was going to take us through. And then he said, but I won't do it with as much diction as my brother Dunamis had. And he looked to where I was and he said, I'm impressed. There I said, yes, I achieved what I came here for. And so he took us through, and fast forwarding, by the end of the meeting, as he was walking out, because I had sat strategically at the place where he would walk. So as he was walking out, we just locked eyes as he was coming, and I stood up to say hello to him. And he came and shook my hand and he said that was really, really fantastic. Then he took out his business card and he gave it to me and he said, look for me. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the beginning of many, many beginnings, because I've really looked for that man. So when I got to look at the business card, it didn't have his number. The business card only had his email address. And so I started emailing him from that night. And I would email and I would say, hello, Reverend Julian. This is Alex. We met at the Mavuno Leadership Summit. And, I would really like an audience with you. So that was how I was emailing him. And I think he didn't reply until my 8th email. If I'm not wrong, he replied to my 8th email. And in the 8th email, the reply read, hi, Alex, I'm so sorry, been up and down, having meetings and flying in and out. And he actually told me that right now I'm in Kuala Lumpur, which, by the way, at that point, we just paused. I think as I was reading the email, I paused at that point. And I Googled Kuala Lumpur because I had no idea where that was. So I checked where Kuala Lumpur was. And so for me, it was quite satisfying to see this man is emailing me from this part of the world. So it was quite something. So he emailed me and he said, I'm in Kuala Lumpur, but I'll be coming in next week and I'll be attending an entrepreneurship summit at such and such a place. So if that is a place where you would be, then we can get to meet and finally talk. So immediately I checked this entrepreneurship summit, and to my surprise, I was supposed to pay 30,000 Kenya shillings to attend that entrepreneurship summit, which for me at that time was really, really a big deal because I was struggling with fees, first of all. So where do I get 30,000 to attend this entrepreneurship summit for 3 days? By the way, it was for 3 days. So it's like every day was 10K. So I didn't know where I would get money to attend that entrepreneurship summit. But I decided to give it a shot. So I began talking to my parents. At that time, my dad told me, right now it's not possible. Then I spoke to one of my rich uncles. And at that time, he told me that business wasn't very good. And even according to him, all the way to Naivasha just to meet this one man for God knows how many minutes. According to him, it didn't sink. So I had to come up with a way on how I was going to get this money. As I was doing my research on the Entrepreneurship Summit, I realized that some of the banks were sponsoring people, not really sponsoring, but were financing people to attend the Entrepreneurship Summit. So it was more of a loan. So they give you a loan and you pay later on. So I emailed one of the banks and I told them I'm interested in attending this Entrepreneurship Summit, but I don't have the money. So can you finance me? What are the requirements? And they told me that they replied and said that the requirements was that you have to have a registered business, because how else are you going to pay them? So I tried to communicate to the lady, and I told her I really didn't have a registered business at the moment, and if there was any other way that they could assist. But unfortunately, she said there was no other way that they could assist. And so that, according to me, was really the only hope by then. At that time, it seemed as the only hope I had to attend this entrepreneurship summit and actually finally get to sit down with Reverend Julian and Kyula and have a discussion. But now this was quite a blow. But I figured out that I can just go to the branch where they had to the branch of this bank that I was talking to, and actually present myself, and maybe they would change their minds on that. And that is what I did. I left Daystar Athi and I came to Nairobi, and I went there and I talked to them in their offices, and I told them I really want to attend this entrepreneurship summit. I really didn't give them the reason why, because maybe it would have looked absurd that I'm just going to meet a man. But I told them why I want to go. I told them that, I'm a young man who is an aspiring entrepreneur. And so I really think that there's a lot that I could gain from this meeting. And so that is why I so much wanted to be in that meeting. And I spoke to them, and according to them, still, it was not possible, because they couldn't ascertain how I would pay them back. And I tried to show them a few things that I've been doing and how I have been making money, but it was all just verbal. There was really nothing that I could, no evidence that I could present to them. And so I went back. I went back to school, but then I decided, let me go again. And so the next day I was there. At around, I remember I even missed class. And in Daystar University, missing class is a big deal. So I showed up there again, and I spoke to the same people I had spoken yesterday, and I told them I was here yesterday and this is what you said. But honestly, I want to assure you that I will pay you. I will really, really pay you. And so I really pleaded with them to give me this opportunity to finance me so that I can be in this meeting. And finally, one of the people said, let me talk to my bosses. And he just walked out, and he went and had a huddle with the bosses. And he came back and he said, okay, we are going to do this. But I will need your ID, a photocopy of your ID, and I can't remember what else. They asked for some photocopies, and I presented them. And they told me that I would receive an email from the event organizers, and so that I can attend the meeting. And true to their word, after I think a day or two, I received an email that said that my registration has been successful. So this will be the pickup point, all that. How we are going to end up to, because it was in Naivasha, how we were going to end up in Naivasha. So everything was quite detailed in the email. So fast forward now, we went and I got to Naivasha, and Reverend Julian came on the second day. And when he came, I was quite excited to see him. I went and told him, sir, I finally made it. I never told him how I did it, but I just told him I was here, and he was quite impressed that I had come. So now we met with Reverend Julian, and actually I remember that day I got to have lunch with him. He told me, you're going to eat with me on my table. And we had lunch with him, and I remember it very specifically because that day I didn't eat. So what I did is that I only ate fruits, and I remember him asking me, you're not eating? And I told him, no, I'm only having fruits. So I only ate fruits, but the main reason I ate fruits is because I wasn't very good with cutlery, so I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of him. And so he had chicken seated right next to me, and I ate fruits. Fruits is just the fork. You're just using the fork. So for me, that was easier in the presence of greatness at that time. So we had lunch, and that's when he decided. He said that he would invite me to Mod the next year. So now I had an invite to meet him at his office in Mod, Karen. Mod was in Karen, his company. And so I had never been to Karen before. So what I did is that I left Daystar with a 5 o'clock bus, 5 a.m. bus. And I think I was in Daystar Valley Road by around 6. My meeting had been set for 11:45 here, if I am not wrong. But I was in town very early. And I dropped there. And the reason why I was trying to make sure that I'm in good time is because I had never been to Karen before. So there was a possibility that I could get lost. And at that time, I'm not sure I was very familiar with Google Maps. I had been given the direction, but I wasn't very familiar with Google Maps. So I had that fear of maybe I could get lost. So I need to be there in very good time. There's no way that you will come and tell a CEO that I encountered trouble and that's why I'm late. So I got to Mod at around in Karen, which is along Dege Road. I got there at around 8:30 or 9 a.m. I was there. Because I even remember that as Julian was coming to the office, he found me there. And when now I got to meet him at 11:45, I even actually remember him apologizing and telling me, I'm so sorry I had to keep you for such a long time. And I told him, no, actually, this is the exact time that you are supposed to meet me. I had just come early in the fear of maybe getting lost and then presenting myself here quite late. I didn't want that. I didn't want it to play out that way. So we had a very, very fruitful discussion for around, I think, 30 to 40 minutes. We had a very fruitful discussion, and I got to tell him about a business I was doing at that time, which was I was installing free-to-air satellite dishes. So they were mainly bringing Christian channels. So I told him about this, and he gave me business. So he told me to install in his house in Karen, and he told me to install in his office at the Purple Center Church, which is along Mombasa Road. So now, and he paid ahead of the installation. He paid a week earlier, actually, before I could even install it. So now I had enough money to pay these other guys, the bank that had financed me, to go to the Entrepreneurship Summit to see him. And so immediately, the first thing that I did when I received the money on my M-Pesa was to walk to one of their branches here in town. And I walked there and I told them, I have come to settle a debt that I have with your bank. You gave me a loan to attend a certain entrepreneurship summit, and so I have come to settle that debt. And I remember the guy was right behind the computer, asked me, what is your name? I mean, he actually asked me my ID number. And he checked and he said, yes, you have an account with us. But are you sure that there's a loan that you were given? Because there is nothing attached to your account as a loan. And I was shocked. I told him, actually it happened from this period to this period. Check again. He checked again, and he couldn't find anything attached to my account. So I told him, call the headquarters. Maybe your branch is not aware, but call the headquarters and find out from them. And that's what he did. He gave them a call, and he checked. The person on the other end checked, and they said to him, depending on the look that this guy gave me, I think what they said to him is, check whether that young man is mentally sound. Because there is nothing like that. There is nothing like what he's claiming. So what I did is that I just woke up from the seat and I told him, listen, there is my ID number and here is my phone number. If my name ever resurfaces in your systems as somebody who has a loan in this bank, call me and I'll come and pay you. And I left. And to tell you the truth, to this day, nobody has ever asked me about that money. And I still bank with the same bank. And I never told Reverend Julian about this. He had no idea how I got to Naivasha. I had never told him about this. I actually waited for Julian to ascertain that this had actually happened. And I think I told him in 2017. That's when I sat him down and I told him, sir, by the way, let me tell you how I got to Naivasha and also the events that followed thereafter. When I was doing my final project in school, we were required to interview experts in various fields. And I remember in my project, I was supposed to interview somebody on business, another on politics, another on music and arts, and another on technologies. The moment that we were given that project, I just circled the technology part and I said, this one I'm going to interview Reverend Julian. And then in business, I interviewed Ken Gishinga, who is the chief economist at Mentoria Economics, who has also become a very, very close friend ever since. And there are quite a couple of things that I do with him to this point. And for the politics, I interviewed Moses Gishuo, who was at that time an aspiring MCA of Kenanya Madatani Ward. That was around where Daystar is located. And then for music, I interviewed my good friend who also assisted me in getting a guitar recently. His name is Enoch Wambua, who is a musician, a recording artist. So I interviewed everybody else. And all this time I'm interviewing everybody else, I'm sending Julian emails. I'm sending Reverend Julian emails every now and then, but I'm getting no reply. So after I finished interviewing everybody else, now the only project that was remaining was for me to interview Reverend Julian on technology. I didn't want to interview anybody else, even though it was very hard to get him. I knew how busy he was, but I just made up my mind that he's the one that I'm going to interview. And so it happened that after really looking for him for a long time, he finally just emailed me and he said, at that time he was in South Africa. He was in South Africa. He emailed me from South Africa. He said, Alex, I've been quite busy and yes, we can do this interview, but we will only be able to do it on Sunday after I've finished preaching, because he was to come into the country on Saturday night, then preach on Sunday, and then I think leave the country again on Sunday evening or on Monday. And so the only time that I could get to interview him was after he finished preaching. So I attended church that day. We went and had the interview, and also thanking his crew at that time. It's his crew that helped me in recording it. In recording it, I didn't have to carry cameras. And within 10-15 minutes, we were done. And at that time, while I was to interview him, I was also to get some expert opinion from his company. That was Mobile Decisioning. I was to get some expert opinion from the engineers there on technology. And so he had also introduced me to the person who was head of marketing at that time, who was Diana Dollar. So he had introduced me via email, and he said Alex would like to come and get some expert opinion from the engineers. So he had asked Diana to assist me in getting the engineers and also, when I'll be recording there. This is a very significant part of the story, because when we got there, we finished, after we were done with, when I was done getting the expert opinion, Diana asked me, because they had been thinking of doing a video on something on innovation. So she asked me if I could help them in doing that video. Yeah, and I told them, because you guys have been so nice to me, I've interviewed your CEO, you've also allowed me to interview your engineers. Then, that's the least. Doing a video for you guys is really the least that I could do. It's just kurudisha shukrani. So we ended up doing it with a friend of mine. And after they watched the video on a town hall, they used to call them town halls, on a town hall, they watched the video, and the staff there, they really liked it. And so they gave me a call and they said, Alex, we really liked what you did. That was amazing work. So I told them, yeah, and actually I was seeking for an internship. So I use that now as a staircase into now requesting for an internship. And so Diana told me that the moment they didn't have any opportunity open, but the moment they do, they will definitely let me know. And true to their word, after about a month, they informed me that there was an opening in the communication department. And so that is how I landed my internship at Mobile Decisioning. And I remember just after I landed my internship in Mobile Decisioning, that's when I got to text Reverend Julian and I told him, by the way, sir, I just got an internship in your company. And I remember, because he had nothing to do with it, I remember him texting me back and just saying, congratulations. And so I worked in Mode for 6 months, and the internship helped me in completing my coursework. And now after that, I continued working in Mode. So now working in Mode was quite an eye-opener for me because it was a multinational company. At that point, we were in 28 countries in the world. So I really gained a lot of experience. And I also had a very amazing boss who was very, very tough, Diana Dollar. So now Diana Dollar actually ended up being my boss. She was very, very tough.
And so Mode, and specifically Diana, gave me what I would call corporate context, because even looking back right now at some of the work that I've been able to do for corporate companies, that is in both photography and videography, I used to be very excited about the quality, about the camera that I am using and the lens, just really the technical part. But now she gave me the context of and made me understand that in the corporate world, it's just not the quality that mattered. It mattered how you represented the brand through the video and through the photo, and that is something that has helped me in my profession.
And right now, I just want to close by stating a quote that I believe is a quote that I have lived by. It was said by one of the greatest motivational speakers to ever walk this life, Les Brown. It's a quote I have said many times in my talks, and a quote that I would like to dedicate to you today. And this is what it says: if you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it, if all that you scheme and dream is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it, if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it and plan for it, and lose all your terror for the opposition for it, if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope and confidence, and stand per tenacity, if neither cold, famine nor gout, sickness nor pain of body or brain can keep you from that thing that you want, if dogged and grim you beseech and beset it, with the help of God, you will get it. It's been a plumb pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. Thank you.